Hello out to all you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. And this one is going to be Nintendo is Irrelevant Part 3, which for those that are listening on Anchor and other podcasting platforms, this is going to be the first time you've heard me say this unless you follow me on YouTube. And then this will be obviously the third time where you're going to hear me use this as a title. But I've never really liked that statement, Nintendo is irrelevant, and I've made a point with the title of a few of my Gamer's Thoughts discussions already that it's a pointless argument. And honestly, you can't really say any company or whatever in the gaming industry is irrelevant. All of it's relevant, even if it's the smallest, most insignificant thing a company can do in the industry is still relevant. All of it's relevant. The past things that they have done, mistakes, bad calls and judgments, as well as anything great and good that they brought to the industry, it's all relevant, no matter which company it is. And this whole Nintendo is irrelevant argument stemmed from the Wii not being as powerful as the 360 and the PS3, and the Wii U not doing so well commercially. Even though Nintendo still made bank off of it, it didn't do as well commercially as they would have liked. That's where all this stems from. Oh, Nintendo needs to get with the hot times, they're behind and everything, when a lot of the stuff that you guys are touting and talking about, Nintendo actually did those things first. Some of them, not all of them. They actually did those things first, and people rejected those ideas at the time they did them. Or their test bed for it wasn't big enough, and they really didn't get enough feedback in the time frame where they actually attempted it to do it. So yeah, I guess you could say they need to catch up, but they've been trying to innovate in the gaming industry for a very long time. And they keep trying to innovate. Now, sometimes I feel like their innovations go backwards. Sometimes I feel like they go forwards. That's an honest criticism. I feel like, honestly, the way the Joy-Cons utilize motion control is a little bit backwards from the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. It's not horrible, but it is a little bit backwards. That's something that they could fix. Something that they can change. I feel like the gamepad was one of the ultimate uses of an additional screen for a gaming device. And they stepped back from that because of it not being very popular by a bunch of people that didn't even try the damn system. But that aside, if we really wanted to talk about irrelevancy as far as sales go, and I know that's one thing a lot of people use, if we were to go to talk genuinely irrelevancy, then that would mean that Xbox would be the irrelevant platform overall. And you want to know why? Total hardware sales per generation. Nintendo has never been at the bottom of that, whether people want to accept that or not. They've never been at the bottom of that in any generation. Yeah, they may have one platform that doesn't do as well, but up until now, they've always had two. They've always had at least two going concurrently in a generation. Where they had the Game Boy Advance, they had the GameCube. And the Game Boy Advance sold very well. Now, the Wii and DS did extremely well together. But then you had the Wii U not do so great, but then you had the 3DS do very well. And now the Switch has come out and it's taken off and done very well. So either way, like, Nintendo's never been at the bottom of the list as far as total hardware units sold. And software sold on said hardware. Whether people would like to believe it or not, they are very relevant in that department. It's when you do selective nitpicky stuff that you can say, well, yeah, they're not doing all that great. But then you got to turn around and look at it like, oh, hold on, they're doing perfectly fine here. They're just not doing so great in this one department. Like, that's the one thing I always said. Like, people be like, well, the Wii U is out. Well, Nintendo sucks. They're irrelevant. They're not doing well. But then you just point to the 3DS. Oh, that don't count. Why doesn't it count? It's the same company. They're selling the same stuff. Like, why doesn't it count? Because you can't use that as evidence to, verify your claim. Or the people that complained about Star Fox Zero, but then wouldn't play Star Fox 64 3D. Which again, if you wanted that experience, it's on the 3DS. It's not the exact same experience as Star Fox Zero, mind you, but it's similar enough, and nobody really bought that game. But Nintendo's irrelevant because their sales numbers don't do what you want, or they don't bring out they don't keep bringing out the franchises that you're asking for until they do, and then you don't buy it. Like, I remember seeing a discussion and people were talking about Metroid. Literally in this discussion, someone talked about Metroid Other M and Federation Force and completely overlooked Samus Returns. Completely overlooked Samus Returns and said, well, Nintendo hasn't produced a decent Metroid game in a few years, or in several years. I'm like, hold on. Like, Samus Returns is literally a full remake of Metroid 2, and the game is totally better than the original game that was made. Or are we going to not count that because AM2R exists, and people bitched about the fact that Nintendo did a cease and desist on it when they were already working on their own remake of their game? Let's be real here. There's nitpicky shit that people do. Like, and yeah, you could just say I did it. I definitely did get a little nitpicky there. Or people complaining about F-Zero not being out or not having a new entry in the franchise. When the Wii U had all those games on the Virtual Console available for you to get, who bought all of them? I was one of those people. You got to show the company that you're interested in it in order for it to do well, for it to get more, for it to get reused more often. Fire Emblem didn't really blow up for Nintendo until Awakening, and that took until the 3DS for it to really blow up. Yeah, it had some successes for a little while. It was mostly successful in Japan, and that was really the only place it was successful in because that's the only place it was until the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube. Again, it started gaining a little bit of traction, but it didn't really break the dam until Fire Emblem Awakening. And now it's a phenomenon of a game that Nintendo didn't expect it to be. So the series got more attention. It got more push. And apparently that pissed people off. The games sell well. Same thing goes with Pokemon. People complain about Pokemon games every year. They sell well, so they come. Hey, they're going to keep coming back. It's up to y'all. If y'all don't want to see them anymore, stop buying them. And the stuff that y'all do want to see, go ahead and buy it. And I see the same people complaining back and forth about this stuff. So it's not always different people. I mean, yeah, you could make the argument a lot of the time it is different people, but I'm seeing the same people arguing. And I'll put in the context, I'm not following these people. We're all just happening to follow the same major big sources. But I see the same people making the same complaints about one thing that applies to something else that they won't make about the other thing because of their own personal biases. Which is fine, just don't pretend you're unbiased. That's all I ask. But let me get back to, the actual subject. I got way off base. I mean, it all still ties into relevancy. And Nintendo's doing what's good for them as a company. They're not trying to compete pound for pound with what Microsoft and Sony are doing, because that would financially ruin them. They're not stupid about that. So why attempt to do it when you know you can't? When you know you don't have the money to keep up with that. I don't blame them for trying to build into their systems alternative ways to use them and to not be super expensive in the development cost. I do not blame them for that. Because honestly, going the route of efficiency is probably the better choice anyway, because it allows you to slowly build up to all that stuff that everyone else is doing, and when you can afford to do it. But hey, Nintendo's irrelevant, right? They're going to keep being irrelevant and likely still be the only ones standing making their own hardware platforms in the years to come when you look back at things. Because on the trajectory of Microsoft and Sony, they may eventually stop making physical platforms and just do PC clients. Microsoft's already most of the way there, and I can see Sony heading that direction too if things don't pick up for the PS5 and whatever they have planned for the next iteration of PSVR. And that's me just being honest about it. But I don't want to drag this on any more than I have. I've already done enough spieling, enough ranting and raving. So you guys tell me what you think. I know that this discussion is going to be later on YouTube than it is on Anchor. And people on Anchor, you can comment if you would like. There is a function for that where you can record yourselves making comments back. I would love to hear what people have to say. But that's it for me. Thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out.